What's going on, guys? Ben here, and today we're going to look at some tips and tricks for Manor Lords, which has just recently come out in early access on Steam. And there's a few things here that are kind of important to kind of make sure that your town's up and running and really productive and everything like that as well. So I thought I'd run through a few of those things for you today, and let me know in the comments below if there's anything else you think is worth knowing as well. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, and let's jump straight into it. So the first tip today is to go through the relationship between your storehouse, your granary, and your marketplaces. You want the granary and the storehouse near marketplaces, basically. This is the route that the marketplace people take. They go from the granary and the storehouse into the marketplace here. And then from here, this stuff sells into the houses. Having these kind of close to each other can be really beneficial. Saves time and stops everything kind of getting bottlenecked in the production chains and everything like that. The relationship with the marketplace, then, once everything's in here, it'll then dish everything out to your houses. Now this happens automatically. It's not something that you need to do. It's not something that your people in the houses need to go and collect or anything. It is dished out automatically, and it's basically done on a basis of first come first serve from the closest house to the market and then outwards. So you can see here, nearly every house here has all the fuel. Everyone's covered here that is a house that's habited. You can see here the clothing, we've got 49 leather. And you can see here with the berries, the eggs and the vegetables, we've got 65% in food variety at the moment. And you can kind of see when you hover over the differences here, and you can see hovering over as well, like who's got grapes, eggs and veggies, who's just got grapes and veggies, who's just got grapes. And you can kind of see the further out you are, the less variety that they're getting. And that's because they only get the variety goes as if they were knocking door to door. So they would, if they came out of the market, they'd visit this house. Well, they'd probably visit this house, this house, this house, or do these ones first. And it kind of fans out in an area. These houses up here are going to be the last. So if there's only 10 eggs, they're going to go to the first 10 houses, give them eggs as well as grapes, and then all the other houses on the outside, they're not going to get any eggs because the eggs have run out. This is basically calculated on the basis that the marketplace will hold enough items for the houses that it is serving. So it won't hold hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these items. Those things will stay in the granary and the storehouse, but it will constantly replenish and top those things up so that it keeps it at a certain level. So in an ideal world, you would have, say there is 47 plots that we need. We'd have 47 berries, that would be 1 food. We'd have 47 carrots, that would be 2 foods, and 47, say, bread, and that would be 3 food. When you have those, it gives you the free food types, right? To get the level 3 houses and stuff like that. That's why it's super important. It's not a case of like having more, like, oh, I have 100 berries. Like, that won't happen. Those kind of things won't work. The same as only, say, having 15 berries, 15 meat, and 15 bread won't be enough. The first 15 houses will get the level 3 food, but everyone else won't have any food. So you kind of want to make sure that you have the maximum amount per the houses that you have. Same goes for clothing. And clothing's a little bit different because you have tier 1 and tier 2. The leather, linen, yarn, we can see we've got 49. So we've actually got 49 houses, 49 plots. That's because everyone's got leather. We've got plenty of that. The linen and yarn also count as level 1. And so it doesn't actually matter whether we had linen and yarn and leather. They only serve one purpose, so it's one or the other. The clothes, shoes, and cloaks, however, they're a tier 2. And for the level 2 houses, you can see they're empty because we don't have any clothes, shoes, or cloaks at the moment. So as those kind of things develop, we would want one of each. And that's absolutely fine. You don't need, like I said, you don't need 25 leather, 25 linen. That won't work. But 50 leather and 50 clothes would work. Obviously, not all the houses are level 2, so we don't actually need 50 clothes. We could probably get away with, 15 clothes maybe? And so that's kind of how that basis works on the marketplace as well, with the storehouse and the granary. So you want these kind of things all nearby so they can pull these things into the marketplace, keep this topped up, and then your houses never drop. Obviously, we're working on doing that at the moment. We've got another granary being built for efficiency and stuff like that. And so the main thing here is to try and keep all of that up, which you'll be able to do the further in you get with the game as well. But this then means that eventually you can get this to 100% on each category and everyone just stays happy. But that's what we're building towards. So just so you know, like the relationships between those. That was a little bit of a long one, so a couple of short ones now. Really quickly, at any point you can press tab and hold it, and you'll be able to see a quick overview of all your houses, what's being worked on. You can see where your oxen are as well if you're curious, like I was, of like where they've been going. You can see who's like taken up in terms of the building slots, and also yields for the farms as well and stuff, and see what's coming up and things too. So really nice to just quickly get that overview. Next two really quick ones as well. Roads, you can build them as much as you want beforehand. They don't cost anything, they don't take any time to build, and you can basically just do that. And you can also then alt and left click to remove the road as well. So super easy, and easy to then kind of craft and build your town exactly how you want it to be. Ideally, just touching back on the granary and the storehouse, you do want people in these as actual kind of assigned families. Reason being is that as the production buildings get full and their pantry fills up, it'll actually either prompt them to then start one by one dropping off the stuff to the granary. Whereas if you have people in the granary itself, they will act as a gatherer, and they will actually go to the production building, collect from the pantry, and ferry it back. And they do this with a cart, which has 10 items. And so they actually then can carry it more efficiently. And again, it just speeds everything up. It lets the gatherers do the gathering. It lets the granary people fill up the granary, and it kind of just works really nicely in that regard. With farming, you'll see here I've kind of divvied up the farming plots into mini little fields, basically. And the main reasoning behind this is so that basically, if you have too big of a plot, the risk is that they just get halfway through the plot and they just don't bother. And it also means that you're kind of cycling between different grains. If you're doing the crop cycling and stuff like that, crop rotation, it's easier to then break these up into little parcels. And you can even set some so that we don't farm some one season and go from there as well. Really recommended to keep everyone off the farming for now, and then when we come into the season in September for harvesting, plowing and sowing, which we are coming into, so I'm actually going to equip everyone in here because we're about to go into September. We can then basically have everyone there, and if you have the upgrade for the plow, you can also assign an ox as well, who can then help out and help you plow the field as well. They do that a lot quicker, but they just do it on their own as the ox, so everyone else can then do the rest of the fields. And you can also set field priority. So if you want like the fields closest done first, or the fields furthest away, or maybe like I wanted these barley ones done first, then you can do that as well. Obviously, remember when you're placing them, the fields themselves, you can then check Emma is wheat. It's part of the wheat family. Flax, barley, and rye. And you can see all those different ones there. Rye you actually need to unlock in the bit up here as rye cultivation, and the heavy plow to have the oxen at the farmhouse is an upgrade that you can get here as well. Another little tip, consider getting a trading post super early. You can actually set this up so that you can then trade your excess goods and start increasing your wealth, which will then allow you to then either get in stuff that you can't make yet or you can't gather and things like that, things that aren't available in your current region, or you can use it to then upgrade like things in the back gardens of like people's houses and stuff like that, like create chicken coops or things like that as well. The main benefit here as well is that you can actually then sell things you make as you get further in. So I've actually got it where we've got some bows being made, which is really good. You can normally sell these for 5 a piece. I've actually got it switched off at the moment though, because we've kind of over traded, and we can see here that there is a market supply system in the game, so it's worth checking your trades from time to time to see if you're getting the same price that you were getting before, because unless I've missed it, I don't believe it tells you this. So it's worth checking this every now and again just to see, okay, are war bows not in demand anymore? If so, the price goes down, so you can hold off and not trade them, and then when the price goes back up, you can trade them again and kind of just alternate the extra weapons we're making. I'm kind of just selling because we don't actually have enough men in the town for our current army that we've got at the moment. We're getting there, but we need more people to come. So at the moment, any surplus I'm just selling and gathering regional wealth and then spending that. And that can be spent on, like I said, level 1, like any burgages really. You can, the level 1s, you can build, let me find a blank one. You can build a vegetable garden, chicken coop, or a goat shed. These all give you passives, vegetables, eggs, and hides. Really, really useful. The apple orchard you need to unlock as a tech point. Takes a little while. Not sure if it's really worth the payoff, especially since it takes a tech point as well. Wouldn't be my priority. But level 1 burgages can have one of these free. The vegetable garden needs to be super long, or needs to be longer, whereas so you know, if you had a really long plot like this would be a good vegetable garden, for instance, whereas a shorter plot like one of these wouldn't be as good of a vegetable garden. But the good thing is with the chicken coops and the goats, they don't have a space requirement, so you can just go ahead and put those in no matter how big or small those are. It does mean as well that you don't really, apart from the aesthetic and like fitting with the landscape, you don't have to have super big gardens like we do with some of these. We have like more narrow land here and stuff like that. That doesn't need to be the case if you don't want to. You can have people with smaller plots. It's only the vegetable garden that actually has a size impact, and it actually says this: yields depend on the plot size. Everything else, when you're level 2, when you've got a level 2 house and you've upgraded it, so you can then upgrade it when you've got all the requirements met, 2 food supply, everything else there, upgrade to level 2, you can then create them as an actual kind of artisan, which means you can then have them as like a tailor, a fletcher, joiner, things like that. The bakery and the armory, they need an actual skill level. The other ones don't. The other ones are all good to do. You just need a bit of money and some resources. Bear in mind, you don't want to switch this on for every single one, because you can't, from what I've seen, you can't really turn that off. And so as long as there's goods, they will just continue to make those goods and sell them, which is good for your economy. And obviously for weapons and shields and stuff like that, you can actually choose what they make as well. So you can actually set that up. So if you're creating a certain type of regiment and you need a certain type of shield or swords and stuff like that, you can actually choose that in the general tab of the building as well. So really, really good there to look at that. Like I said, you don't want to have this switched on for every level 2 though, because it'll actually mean that they can't be assigned. That will be their job. They will go get the resources, they will work and build like this. They're going to build the bows here in this house, and then they will then take the bows back to Storehouse, and we can then sell them and or equip them to our soldiers and go from there. Next tip: the logging camps, the foragers, the hunters, like the hunter camps and everything like that, they can all be relocated for free. You don't need to worry about that. You can just pick them up. The base resource will drop, so you get a full refund of the building, and you place it somewhere else, and then they'll go along and build the new camp over there. And you can see I'm kind of moving the logging camps around. We've got a little forester's hut here, which later in the game, this wouldn't be something you'd build, you know, when you're first starting out with your first 5 houses. But as you're getting a decent population, you know, you've got around 100 people or so, forester's hut isn't a bad idea. It will regrow the trees, and you can just set it to regrow around it to begin with, but you can go to advanced, click the limit work area, and you can actually select where you want them to grow the trees next. So really, really good to know that. And you can just keep moving this around and then have the forester's hut following them. If you just have one logging camp or you're not really using a lot of it, you can just have the forester's hut and the logging camp kind of stay in the same area, and they kind of self-sustain. I haven't worked out exactly how much you need for that to really keep it as a one-to-one, but it's good to know. That also extends to other buildings. So although you can't move all buildings, like we can't move the granary, we can't move the smithy. If we did want to demolish the smithy, it's absolutely fine. We'll get a full refund. The only thing you actually waste by doing this is the time it took to build it in the first place. So if you place something and you're like, oh, I don't like where I placed the church, or I wish I could have placed it over here or something, and that's absolutely fine. You're able to do that, and that's not a problem at all. Really good that it doesn't penalize you for that. Obviously the resources just drop, and then you put a new plot down, and then they'll basically just build the new one in the new place that you wanted it to be. If we just click on the region name, it'll open up our tech tree. So far, I would really recommend the trade logistics, because basically it caps the trade routes at 25 wealth each. You'll see here that all of my trade routes, if I want to like buy them, only cost 25, and you can't like sell sidearms, for instance, until you have 25 regional wealth. And if you don't have this actually set, they can be 100, 200, 300 regional wealth. There's no real cap, I don't think. They just keep getting more expensive the more you buy. So by having this in there, it means you can have as many trade routes as you want, capped at 25 regional wealth at a time, which is really, really useful. And better deals actually makes them cheaper as well to actually import stuff in. Really, really important to get this one. This is going to be my next one I get. Really, really useful. These ones that are locked, that have the padlock, they're not available yet in the current version of the game. They will be added in the future. The charcoal burning and then deep mining is really, really good if you've got a rich deposit. So if you've got a rich deposit, like I've got a rich deposit of clay here, before I fully mine this, I could turn this into I could get that upgrade and turn this into a rich deposit. It just means it will never expire, it will never run out. We've still got 2,000 clay at the moment, so we're not really worrying about that. But I did have a stone deposit here, and at the very beginning I had an iron deposit here, but those weren't rich, so there's no point saving those. You might as well just mine them and get them done, because you can't ever get those, as they're not eligible for the deep mining upgrade. Basically, it has to be a rich deposit. Likewise, if you do have a source of berries, that's why on my one I went for the berry management, the forest management that doubles the capacity of all berry deposits. Useful as a source of food here, because again, it was really my only source of food. The hunting, which we'll touch on in a second, is decent, but not amazing if it's not a rich one. So the berries there, I was like, that's an easy double. And a little tip here, the forager hut will have an upgrade that you can select, which will let you create a little herb garden as well. So you can get those herbs for your villagers. Where is that one? Where does that show? There. So if you ever get the notification saying that a villager's sick and they need herbs and stuff like that to speed their recovery, this is where you get the herbs from the forager hut. Now, touching on the hunters, the hunting camps and the wild animals, you can hover over and you can see how many animals there are, and you can actually set a hunting limit. Now we've set the hunting limit to 10, so we won't hunt while the animals are under 10 out of 20, basically. So at the moment it's at 7. What I've found is that if you did set this lower, obviously if you set it to 0, you're just going to hunt them to extinction. You'll lose that source and you'll never get that back. I don't think it's organic in the way that like animals can move in. That would be cool to see in the future, but at the moment it's very static. You also can't like settle or put the hunter too close in the area when you actually have the building. I don't know if I can pick this up. It'll actually show you here and it'll say overlaps and will cause migration. Again, if you have a rich deposit, you've got more to play with, and so you might actually then be able to hunt more and stuff like that. But at the moment, I see this as more of a source of hides rather than a source of meat. Super quick tip. Everyone here that is unassigned, as you can see when you hover over, they will be your construction people and your ox transporter people automatically. If you want to actually delegate someone to be an ox transporter, then you can do on your stables, on your hitching posts. You can basically then just make sure there's someone in there. But if you're not too bothered about that, you can just have it so they're free, and they will just basically go and do it freely anyway if there's someone available. From what I understand, this just makes someone a bit more dedicated to this job, and that they're not going to get distracted and do anything else. Like, they won't go off and build. They will literally just do stuff with the ox, like just carry the logs from place to place, and that's all they'll do. So it's nice to have a couple of those, and like I said, you can order more oxes. You can order 1 animal a month, so it takes the regional wealth, but it's very important. I'd recommend trying to get another hitching post with another ox as soon as possible when you first start. Also worth noting that where you first set up camp is not where you need to actually be. Like, so I started actually here, I have my supplies, and I have my little homeless tents and stuff like that. And I just drew a road because it's free. Just made a road down to here because I saw when I was doing my building that at the time there was a lot of fertility here. Obviously, fertility's dropped a little bit because we've been farming this area. But the I can see we had a big space here for expansion. The city could be down here and stuff. And so just taking the time to look at the lay of the land when you're first starting out on the map just to see where things are, because it is different each time. The region will stay the same, but the resources within the region will be different. And like I said, you don't always start down here. You might start in different areas from time to time as well. So fully worth just taking the time, just having a look. Where's a good place where you could build? Where's a good place where like your food sources come from, like where your rocks and minerals come from and stuff like that, and just being able to start building your town around that. But don't feel like where your homeless camp is where you actually need to set up your town. When you've got the ability to do so, the storehouse, recommended to upgrade it to the large storehouse. It doesn't cost a lot, but what it does is it allows you to hold 2,500 items instead of 250 items. So it's a huge upgrade, very worth doing, especially when you're starting to get loads of wood, firewood and timber, and starting to produce stuff for your artisans as well. Really, really important to do. Another thing that's worth doing is that when you've got multiple granaries and storehouses, you can actually select what things go in them. So you can actually start to specify certain areas for production change. So if you start noticing you're getting bottlenecks, or people are crossing from one edge of town to the other to get something, then you can actually have a second storehouse and have we could have like a granary up here, for instance, that just collected all the wheat and all the different bits and pieces and stuff like that. Whereas the granary down here would do the meat and the grapes, for instance. You could definitely do that as well. Especially if you notice those bottlenecks happening, it's well worth doing. Sometimes when you're building houses, and I'll show you this just now, you will see that you'll have an option for, I'm trying to get this to force it to work. You'll get that little symbol where it's a little house and a plus on the right hand side there. Basically this is going to make 4 houses with 4 backyards. Very important to give every house a backyard. This allows them to have the artisan upgrade, or have a chicken coop or some goats and stuff like that. I would have every house having this, because I don't see why you wouldn't. When I'm trying to force it, when you're at like an angle with a plot, you can actually squeeze in. So this is 4 houses, right? Whereas this would actually be 3 plots, but would actually give us 5 families, because 2 families can live in those. And it is a really good way to save some space and be able to get more out of it. The other thing is that with the back garden, if you then change that into, so we've got over here Fletcher, right? And our Fletcher is super productive because both families, because we've got this was a family plot as well. We got the main plot and the second plot. Both families become a Fletcher, and so you actually get extra production from this, because you've made this one plot that is 2 for the same price. Like you make 1 Fletcher shop, they will both work on it. And so really, really good to kind of, obviously you're kind of crafting your town and your houses anyway, but when you're looking at those plots that you can then expand the living space, they're always a good one to look at, to be like, okay, well, can we get that to level 2, and can we get that to have an artisan kind of workshop as well, because we're going to get more production out of that, which is just better efficiency. In terms of getting more families to your village, because that, especially early on, that is the most important resource, the people itself, that can come from 2 factors. So the first factor, and you need both of these, the first factor is that you need enough houses. So you need enough burgages available. So if you've got 5 families and you've got 5 burgages, that is not enough. You need to then build some more, and then that has the room then for people to come. The second point though is that you need the approval. So your approval, if it's between 50 and 75%, you seem to get about 1 family a month, maybe. It's not super fast, but you will kind of slowly gather 1 family every month. Whereas if you have 75% up to presumably 100%, I haven't actually gone to 100% yet, but if you get them, if it's above 75%, you seem to get about 2 families a month. So, or at least the cadence of them coming is a lot quicker. So keeping them happy with the marketplace and the variety of goods, having a tavern, having your church and everything like that as well. Really, really important to kind of keep everyone happy, keep that approval up, and then you can just keep building your houses, keep growing, because basically the more people you have, the more mouths you have to feed, but the more jobs you have that you can then fill with those people. So really, really important to keep an eye on that as well. More around the combat, you can click and rally any particular kind of soldiers that you would like, and that will then create them. Now, just bear in mind that they will actually start with a run to positions set up. You want to like turn that off. There we go. You want to turn that off so that they walk instead. So you can, if you've played Total War, it is similar where you can kind of right click and drag their formation. And the reason why you want to turn the running off is because it actually lowers their fatigue. And their fatigue will actually affect their effectiveness, which you can see here will have whether they've got climbing, cohesion, whether they're in their home territory and stuff like that. All that kind of stuff is very important. They will move slower, but it is something that ideally you're going to be defending normally, so you can just have them walk to the location, go where they need to go, and kind of set up from there. The spearmen in particular will actually have a bonus if you stand the ground, and it will basically as people rush them, they will then be able to cut them down with the spears, and basically you can kind of set this all up. The little tooltips here describe kind of what the different kind of things will give as well. Gives you a lot of options here to play with the tactics. When you're ready, you can disband the unit and they'll go back to their jobs like normal. One thing not to be sniffed at is when you're creating new units, you can actually hire mercenaries instead of forming a militia. Now, hiring mercenaries on the face of it looks expensive, and sometimes you'll have 3 or 4 options here, and it'll tell you when they'll arrive, what they have, and how much it'll cost you. Although you might wince at some of the prices of these, if you've got the treasury to do so from trading and actually selling some stuff, it can be more efficient to hire them than it is to make and buy and all that, you know, spend all that production fashioning your own kind of army. And potentially, because if the men die while they're at war, you then have those jobs, like those jobs as less production, then people are missing from the workforce and stuff like that. Whereas the mercenaries, they don't have any impact like that. It is worth noting that price is a monthly fee, and for every month you have them. So with the mercenaries, fight what you need to fight, disband them afterwards, and you won't get charged more than you need to. Lastly, there's probably loads of guides and videos on how to like optimize or how to do this, and this, myself included here. Main thing here is just to kind of have fun with this, build how you want to build, enjoy this kind of medieval village simulator. Whether you want to have bandits switched on, whether you want to have the difficulty high or low, that's entirely up to you and how you want to play. At the end of the day, no one's forcing you to play in a certain way. The main thing is that you're having fun with this. Towns in real life aren't perfect themselves. Yours doesn't have to be either. It's going to have flaws. It's going to have its own charm and characters and stuff like that. And yeah, enjoy it and have fun. But I hope those tips kind of helped you today. If you've got any more or anything you think's worth shouting out, or anything you think I've missed, like I said, this wasn't a comprehensive guide, just a few little tips to get started really. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.